Hopefully you're enjoying this warm Friday, the 13th, of course. Get ready to start the Pinelands Commission meeting here for Friday, April 13th, 2018. If we could start with the Open Public Meetings Act, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Pinelands Commission was given in compliance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act by providing notice to all municipal and county clerks within the Pinelands area, to the Secretary of State on December 20, 2017, and to the Commission's officially designated newspapers on December 20, 2017, and by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the Commission's office.
Thank you. Wait, Nancy, do we have roll call? Am I going out of order? Because that's what's on my list.
Okay. Good morning.
There we go.
Commissioner Ashman? Okay, sorry. Commissioner Avery? Commissioner Barr? Commissioner Chila? Commissioner Galetta? Commissioner Howell? Conference. Commissioner Generode? Commissioner Lloyd? Commissioner Lobauer? Commissioner Kudliski? Commissioner Prickett? Commissioner Quinn? Commissioner Rowan Green? Chairman Erwin.
Here. Now, you all rise, please. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item on our agenda here is the adoption of the March 9th, 2018 minutes. Do we have a motion? Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? Once, twice. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And abstentions? All right, moving right along. With Nancy, you have an introduction to the new staff member?
As you may recall, Michelle Russell resigned as our HR specialist. We conducted a recruitment. We got a lot of really good resumes. We interviewed a lot of people, and we selected a candidate which caused us, there was no question. Donna Graham and I did the interviews. We didn't have any second thoughts. We didn't have any second choices. We were only scared she wouldn't take the job because she's really fabulous. She is Savannah Concepcion, and she is right there. We are thrilled to have her. She is working full time. Michelle worked 3 days a week, so that's great. And things are going really well, and we're super happy.
Welcome. All right. Next, we have a special award. We have a staff member who's been here for 10 years. Where's Patrick at? There he is. You're not wearing your Devils jersey. Thank God. Yeah. I don't know if I would have said the nice things that I'm about to say if you were wearing your Devils jersey, but so Patrick's been here 10 years, and I have a little bit of a bio here that I'll read, and then we'll bring Patrick up. Patrick was born and raised and currently lives in Toms River. He started the commission as a research technician in 2012, promoted to a research scientist. 2012. Why does it say 2012? That doesn't make 10 years. Math doesn't work right. So he started in 2008, was promoted in 2012 to research scientist. There we go. His primary responsibilities include the science office component of the right-of-way pilot program and surveying for dragonflies and dam selfies, but he also helps with fish and frog surveys and other projects. He enjoys all aspects of his job. Hope you wrote that, Patrick. And looks forward to the new challenges ahead. Patrick spends much of his free time with his 2 children. He's also an avid New Jersey Devils fan. It's the hockey team, not the creature. There we go. And again, being a Flyers fan, I don't know that I like that part of it, but go on up here. We have a certificate for Patrick for 10 years before we're here in front of the flag. 10 years of dedicated service to the Jersey Pinelands. Before we get into the rest of the regular agenda here, I did have one announcement. Obviously, we have a couple of committees here at the Commission, the Policy and Implementation Committee and the Personnel and Budget Committee, and we ask that we try to get all the different commissioners on at least one of those committees. So we've had some new commissioners, and Commissioner Howell is going to be joining the Policy and Implementation Committee, and Commissioner Pikulisky is going to be joining the PMB moving forward. So I just want to make that formal announcement so that everybody was aware. So up next, we have committee reports, and I believe the only report that we have is for P&I, which I will handle. We held the meeting on March 23rd. We adopted the minutes from the January 26, 2018 meeting. We received an affordable housing update for the entirety of the Pinelands area. And then we also received an update on plan review and CMP amendments. That's about it for the P&I meeting for the 23rd. Are there any questions from that meeting? Somebody? Okay. We had no P&B? No.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just make sure that all the PMB members know that the April 24th scheduled PMB meeting has been canceled. I think our next big topic is the budget. We're not quite ready to discuss that. Wonderful.
I was pondering that it appears the agenda for the May meeting is going to be light with regard to Publix. Maybe we'll do it again. You think it would be worthwhile? Okay. No. It's we took a relook at plan review because we just finished that secondary rule adoption and what we had left and what we were thinking about going forward for the next few years before we have to do plan review again. So, okay, good.
Turn it right back over to you for some staff reports.
We are moving forwards with implementation of the new software that we got. Primarily, that software was purchased for our financial work, requisitions, accounting, budgets, and that is in play. That has been in play for a while. Jessica Lynch has been training staff on the requisitions part of it, but she's been using the other parts. And now we're going to go to the human resources piece. We're going to have a new time card system. We've been using an old DEP CAT system from like 30 years ago. So that'll be another. So those are very significant changes for us that you will probably never notice, but for staff and for how we do things, it's a really monumental and significant change. So that's all going well, and Jessica Lynch has been working on that. Along the same line, I got a call from our friends in Trenton, the auditors. They would like to come to begin the FY17 audit. They will be coming sometime in the beginning of May. They have told me that they plan to be off property by September.
Are you still planning on using the same consultant, or was that just this first step to get through the issues we had with the previous audit?
Yeah.
We're still using them to help
yes.
Get through
yes,
the
yes. We're still using them. And we use them for like monthly looks, and they're sort of, yes, we'll still be using those. So that will be coming in the spring. They do it. And
what's your charm, Helen?
Days of the week are they here?
5 days a week, all day. Oh, and how long were they here last time? 14 months they were here. 14 months. You know how big our budget is. 14 months. So when you said they'd be off by September, It's Office of Legislative Services.
Too much, way too much.
No, we don't pay for that. So one thing we don't pay.
Nancy, has that changed from year to year?
Things got backlogged, so there was a bit of a transitional issue. But yeah, they're here at least 3-4 months, at least. That was strange what happened there.
So you think it could be part of the musician on the
Well, Donna Connor left, and there was transitional issues, and things were done differently, and they don't, well, change orders. We changed the audit committee. There was a lot of flux. So I'm hoping we're back on track now. And we have new software. So even though this audit, we still weren't all new software, but we should be using the system to generate documents, so I think that will help. Yes, I spoke to Evan again yesterday. Yes, we will have the servers here. He's going to have it done. It's good. Yes, we won't see that one again. We're going to recover from the disaster. Speaking of disasters, financial disclosure forms are due May 15th. Stacy is not here today. She is at OAL on another matter. We've only heard from 2 commissioners. She told me the rest of you need to step up.
All right, step
Because
up.
Stacy's really busy, so she won't be able to hound you. And the last thing I have, which is first ironic, but then ultimately good news. So, you know that we've been working diligently to get our permits approved so we can construct the Pinelands exhibit out there in the reception area. We've had some permitting difficulties, but we resolved the permitting difficulties. And we actually got to a point where the group of people who were approving our permits approved them. And everything was fine and all the work was done. And then it goes from them to DCA, and DCA calculates our fee. When it was going from the reviewers to DCA, it got lost. But it got back. So we are done. All we have to do now is write the check once they tell us what it is, and that aspect of this process is done. Well, how long?
I would say a year and 3 months.
Right, absolutely. Oh,
Approximately.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Approximately.
It's regulatory karma. Yep, but it's done. And it ended well. We made some calls and everything got fixed. And so I'm anticipating within a week, we'll get the bill, we'll write the check, and then we'll commence. I mean, work has been ongoing, but then we'll have an on-site meeting and soon
Yes. Yes.
we'll start work.
Yeah, we're going to be meeting with the contractor to go over their new schedule because we are going to require that they give us a new project schedule and timeline. So once we get that, we can share that with you. And so you'll know when things will start and when things will end. And that kind of thing. I wish. I would say within a month or so. Yeah, I hope.
At the same time, I believe I mentioned to you that we're going to redesign and construct the garden, which we Katie Garden, which we did years ago from employee work here in this hill. I had a fellow from Eagleton here. She was a landscape architect and she designed a new garden for us. So we're going to, we want them both sort of done together. So when we have people coming here, we'll also have that outside. That'd be nice. So we'll also have meetings. Next week, we're going to kick that off and start to simultaneously. We're hoping to do almost all of that, if not all of that work in-house. Right, and then the next big lift for us is going to be how we're going to handle it. We're going to set hours. You know, we have to figure it out. Because we have a lot of resources, but we don't want to discourage. We also have facility limitations, so I'm starting to worry about bathrooms. And Paul said, "How long do you think it takes to get permits to do something like that?" I was like, so that's where we are.
Good morning, commissioners, members of the public. Just a couple of things I wanted to note. Earlier this week, the executive director and I met with an applicant and a representative, an assistant commissioner from the Department of Agriculture. An applicant was proposing to establish a retail farm market in an existing agricultural building and was questioning the necessity to apply to the Pinelands Commission for that matter. The applicant was interpreting our regulations to indicate that anything associated with agricultural use did not require application to the commission. At that meeting, we were able to discuss our regulations and indicate that activities that in your rules that say exclusively for agricultural purposes, barns for tractors, barns for storage of products, all of those activities are exempt from application to the Pinelands Commission. But retail farm markets and other types of commercial activity on a farm based on your regulations do require application to the Pinelands Commission. This is sometimes a confusing issue for applicants because Right to Farm Act comes into play, and there's lots of different information around. But in the Pinelands area, those activities do require application to the Pinelands. In this particular instance, it appears that the application will move right through the Pinelands Commission, and there aren't any issues associated with it. But it is a discussion we do have from time to time. The next matter I wanted to just mention is we've received an application from the Department of Environmental Protection for an approximately 60-acre forestry proposal in Pemberton Township. Next week, we're going to be having a pre-application with the Department of Environmental Protection to discuss that proposal. Later this month, we have a call-up hearing on a mining proposal. And the mining proposal is raising issues with threatened and endangered species, in particular snake species. And the only reason I mention this, I didn't want to go into detail on the particulars of it because it may ultimately wind up in front of the commission for a decision. But some of the commissioners may remember that we've had ongoing discussions over the last couple of years about that mining operations and threatened and endangered species are starting to present difficult issues for the staff and ultimately the commission to decide. The next issue I just wanted to, or not issue, but matter I wanted to mention is, and it's a compliment, I think, to some of your staff members. Washington Township contacted the commission and asked for our assistance in a matter that was arising between an applicant and municipal officials concerning a wetlands buffer and whether clearing was occurring within a wetlands buffer. We were contacted by the township attorney who asked for our assistance in mediating the matter. And I think the fact that the township felt comfortable asking our staff to assist, that we had demonstrates a good working relationship with the township. The last matter I just wanted to mention was just a general issue is the staff continues to spend a significant amount of time in the relationship between the Permanent Extension Act, the municipal land use law, and rezonings. Those three issues come into play when you take into consideration the economic downturn. A lot of projects didn't move forward. In the intervening decade, rezonings have happened, the Permanent Extension Act comes into play, and then the provisions of the municipal land use law, where an applicant secures approval from the municipality that provides protection from zoning changes for prescribed periods of time, and also allows an applicant to go back for after the fact extensions if their approval has run out. And so the staff is spending a good bit of time trying to sort through those matters. They're really not contained directly in your regulations of how those different laws. That's all I had.
So, can you tell us anything more about the forestry application, or will you know more next week? I'm just curious what the outlines of the proposal are.
I'll be happy to report it at the next meeting, Commissioner. It's a selective thinning of approximately 60 acres in 2 different areas in Pemberton Township. The Commission had previously approved forestry activities on some of the acreage, and some of the harvesting did not occur within 10-year time frame that your regulations require. So some of it is coming back for renewal. But I'm not prepared at the moment.
No, that's helpful, just giving you what you just said. The mining issue is going to be heard by the staff, and then perhaps it comes to us, perhaps not. And then the third, I just wanted to mention this issue of municipal land use law and approvals. We have a case before the Supreme Court on approvals under the municipal land use law and how they relate to an exemption in the Highlands Act. I don't know whether it'll apply here or not, but we're grappling with those same issues in that case.
To bring that up about the extensions, I'm just wondering, was there any thought about some kind of change in the CMP to address those situations? I think we tried to do that previously, and at least part of this, there's three issues that we brought up just now, with the potential of CMP change or a couple CMP changes. But is there anything we can do to,
I mean, this is, I was going to say something about it because, Chuck makes things sound much smoother than they are. These are torturous issues. And what happens, there's a bunch of things that happen. People get approvals and they assume they're good forever. That's just what they think. Towns change zoning, they don't call you and tell you. They think everything's good. And then sometimes they'll go to the town and the town will say, okay, fine. So then it comes here. And this, so this is the problem. They're like, what do you, so we become sort of the arbiter of these very complicated old issues with histories to them. So I don't believe, who thought we'd still be dealing with Permanent Extension Act? I mean, who?
I mean, the case before the Supreme Court started with affordable housing approval from 1992. And we're talking about a Highlands exemption that was, the Highlands Act was passed in 2004. So these things, they're zombies. I call it zombie permits. They're there forever.
It's very complicated.
It is complicated.
And similarly, when Chuck was talking about the agriculture issue, the person who came in was furious with us because our rules are different than right to farm. Our rules are different than the definitions in other rules that have to deal with agriculture. We have different rules, and they just can't. They can't wrap their brain around it. They don't know it to begin with. The town doesn't necessarily tell them. So by the time they come here, they're just furious. So, and Chuck and his staff do an unbelievably good job of talking people off the ledge. But these things are very complicated and it's very difficult. So I sat in on the ag meeting, and I sit in on all these Permanent Extension Act meetings, and Susan's there because planning gets involved, and they're really torturous. And we really try very hard to find paths forward that are consistent with the law and consistent with our rules that will allow applicants at least something. But it's very hard and very stressful.
Do we have any idea? I mean, this is hard because these permits are out there and we don't know about it. Any idea of how many of these are out there? Or how many are you dealing with right now? I mean, that's the place to start.
I'll take a stab at that, Commissioner. I can't tell you how many, but I'll quantify it that there are a large number. Because what happens is as you're dealing with every project that's received. I shouldn't say that, there's some qualifications, but many projects that have received an approval for a subdivision since 2005 at a minimum, and some go back further. All of those subdivisions are regional growth areas in our Pinelands town, where most of these large applications are. They're all subject to rezonings. If they've been rezoned, even individual lots within existing projects, they come up. And so I'll say, anecdotally, there are a lot.
And I apologize for pressing. I mean, is a lot 5? Is a lot 10? 50? I mean, 50?
50 to 100 at
wow.
least.
Okay. That's
the projects, Chuck's talking about the large projects in the growth areas. We have the same issue, perhaps on a smaller scale in the forest and rural development areas, where although the permit extension has been applied, we have projects that were approved in 2007, 2008, and your clustering requirements were adopted took effect in 2009. 10 years later, these projects come in ready to build, have done nothing, and 10 years they come in now, we have to tell them, well, the clustering rules apply. You need to have 1 acre lots, not 5 acre lots. And there may be, 3 or 4 or 8 projects. That's a tough one too. It's not quite the same issue, but we're still dealing with this universe of very old approvals that have just sat there for a long time. And people sold individual lots, maybe. New owners, they have no idea.
Can you remind me how long, under the municipal land use law, how long you're protected against the zoning change on the permit, or does it vary depending on the planning process?
It's not a planning board, it's not their discretion, that's the timeframes are set. It depends on the type of approval you get for extension.
Are they 3 to 5 years?
And then 3 1-year extensions, or 3 years and 2 1-year extensions. And it's like a 5-year.
And probably the part of that that becomes most difficult is the language in the municipal land use law that allows an applicant to go, once his permit or its approval has expired, and perhaps it's 2 or 3 years old, the municipal land use law allows an applicant to go back to a town to receive after the fact extensions. And that extension starts when it would have expired. And what's happening is applicants are going back for after the fact extensions to get them up to the Permit Extension Act beginning in 2007, which then continues to protect them through different dates, but basically 2016. So this becomes very convoluted and complicated.
Nope, if there's a shoot.
Future permits, we do now, do we put a disclaimer that said these are going to be protected or not protected under zoning changes and municipal land use?
It's not an approval.
Disclaimer, tell them that, this is going to be good for 2 or 3 years, and then if something happens with zoning changes, if you need to figure it out at that point, whether it's just later.
Certificate of filing does have a time frame. It says it's valid until X date. Well, I don't think we can be any more clear.
Well, our certificate,
Yeah, those are outside of the
Mr. Chairman, our certificate of filings indicate that clearly that they're not approvals, that they're the document necessary to proceed to the municipality, as in the rest of the state of New Jersey, and secure any planning board permits, zoning board permits, or approvals that are necessary. And whatever timeframes are applicable outside the findings are applicable inside the findings with regard to the municipal land use law, how much protection that will be received. So the way our rules are written, we're issuing a certificate of filing, the municipality acts, and we're issuing a follow-up letter that says the municipal approval can take effect. The municipal approval is governed by the municipal land use law, as it is the entire state of New Jersey, not in particular by the Commission's regulations that limit or extend those municipal permits or approvals.
How often did these issues come to the commission? Because I don't remember them coming here. The staff is dealing with them.
Well, this becomes even a little more complex. The effective date of the approval under the municipal land use law is the date that the municipal planning board or zoning board issued the approval. What happens though, there's a lag time normally between when the municipality approves it and it actually makes its way to the commission staff. And we have a chance to review it and issue our final letter that it may take effect. So that there's really 2 different issues that are going on there. Our follow-up letter is saying the approval takes effect, go build. But our approval letter doesn't supersede the municipal land use law, where as soon as the board acts, the clock starts running. So it becomes quite complex.
If I may once more. The issue before the Supreme Court in the Highlands is what is the effective date of municipal approval one side is arguing that because there are 50 conditions in the approval doesn't take effect until those conditions are met. And the other concern is, if that's the case, how would anybody who wants to challenge approval, there's 45 days to challenge your approval, so can you wait 3 years until all the conditions are, so that's the issue the Supreme Court's grappling with. I don't know whether it'll help us or not. We'll see.
Thank you. Anything else, Chuck? That's enough? Okay. Susan, do you have anything?
I'll just say that our municipalities have been extremely busy this spring. It's almost around February or March we start to see an increase in activity in terms of zoning changes, master plan activity, rezonings, all kinds of things. So redevelopment plans. So we're starting to really see an increase in activity. I think you all might be interested to know that Pemberton Township in particular has been very active lately. They are considering 4 different redevelopment plans. One for the old BCC site right down the road from here, and some property across the street as well. Browns Mills, they're looking at a new redevelopment plan for Browns Mills, and also another redevelopment plan for the Flora Hospital area. So we're seeing a lot of that. It's interesting. So we're busy working a lot for towns. And also PDCs, I always like to tell you what's happening there. It sort of mirrors what Chuck's talking about. We're starting to see some of these old projects that haven't done anything in 12, 15 years reemerge because the economy is starting to turn around, Atlantic City's effect, things are starting to look better, particularly down in Atlantic County. And so these projects are coming back to life in various stages, and some of them have PDC obligations. Either they had them originally when they were first approved, or zoning changes have occurred during this very long period of time, and we're now talking to them about the fact that those changes have resulted in a PDC obligation. So we're continuing to see additional sales in terms of credits, but we're also starting to see redemptions, which is the key, where people are actually using them, redeeming the credits. And in some cases, we think some of those redemptions are going to be occurring in the Atlantic County regional growth areas, which hasn't been the case in a while. So that's good news for the PDC program.
Paul, do you have anything?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Just a reminder real quick, we are live streaming again today. So we are running the sound directly through the microphones. So it's critical that we always use the microphones when we talk. Seeing some good compliance, so that's good. Just a reminder. We had our 29th annual Pineland Short Course on March 10th at Stockton University in Galloway. We had over 600 attendees, a very good turnout. A lot of positive feedback we've received from that, both during and after the event. We have our online evaluation survey, and of the 200 people who responded thus far, 96% rated the event as either excellent or good, and 99.4% said they would return next year. We received a lot of good comments, some interesting things, some ideas for how to improve the event. One person suggested we should open up the dorms so that people could stay there overnight and have the full college experience. Another person suggested that we have an open bar. So, and that was not me. Yeah. Yes. Yep. So we had 2 members of our staff deliver presentations, Chief Scientist John Bonnell, Research Scientist Marilyn Sobel, and then also Commissioner Rick Prickett did a presentation. All well received. It's a lot of fun. Yes. We had Senator Donald Norcross was in attendance. He attended 4 courses there. And because next year is the 30th anniversary, we're talking with the university about having some kind of special event, perhaps something of the nature of an after-event gathering, perhaps. Sorry. What did I say? Oops. Sorry. Thank you. So meanwhile, we are busily planning the 2nd annual Pineland Summer Short Course, which will be held once again in Hamilton at Kramer Hall. And we're working on the lineup for that right now. That's going to go out shortly. So as always, commissioners are more than welcome to attend free of charge if you have any questions. That is July 19th. That's the second annual Pinelands Summer Short Course, which is held at Kramer Hall in downtown Hamilton. Had a number of commissioners attend last year.
Can I comment
Yes.
on the short course and everything else we do, the staff does, all the hours in for all the educational activities staff does. Just a huge event. I mean, big college campus, I don't know how many presentations, but there must have been 100 presentations. How to coordinate all of that is amazing. How to get people to, come and do their presentations, not only for the 29th annual short course, but also this will be the second year for the summer short course. I just want to commend staff for all the effort, for all of Joel and everyone else. John's there. Everyone else that's involved. There must be hours and hours and hours. And it's very stressful, and it just they always run so smoothly. So that's wonderful, and keeping that content out there for the public to get interested in, get involved in, visit our parks, visit these beautiful places is so important. And 29 years is remarkable. Continue to do that. I hope the second short course of the year will be 29 years someday. And still as popular as this will be 60. So, but again, I think the commission does a great job. And we can always do more, but what we're doing is really substantial. We're doing information, beauty, ecology, history, and finance. So I just want to thank everyone involved in that process.
Thank you.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yes. Did you have fun at your presentation?
I did. I didn't have so much fun in preparing for the months I went. I had fun with the weekend. So it was an acronym of Charles S. Beckwith, and he was the first director of the Cranberry substation in New Jersey, associated with the agricultural experiment station in New Brunswick. And I found that in '67, although he had passed away by that time, the substation was in the carriage house, which here at Elizabeth. It's been for years here before they moved to Chatsworth, but the cranberry farmers have a lot to do with the preservation of pinelands, control the quality of the water. That's essential to cranberries. And in my research, Jack McCormick comes up as working for the cranberry farmers. Jack McCormick did the first inventory, I think, of pinelands, and he also did physiological survey of plants, survey of plants. So all these interrelationships have so much, which is pretty much what the staff does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So just one last item to note. We have our annual Pinelands orientation for newly elected officials. This is an event that we do jointly with the Pinelands Municipal Council and Mayor Pikaliski. That will be held here at our headquarters on July 24th. It's a good event to learn the ins and outs of the Pinelands Protection Program and how we work with the towns and the counties. We always encourage members of the commission and others to attend. That's all.
Any other questions for staff? Anything else I missed? No? All right, we'll move on to resolutions. We have two resolutions today. We're looking to approve three different applications. First of which is for the New Jersey Turnpike Authority for demo of 3 toll booths and the addition of some express lanes and an IT center. We have a motion on this resolution. Any questions or comments on the Turnpike Authority? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, moving on. We have 2 applications for Pemberton Township. One is for construction of pedestrian walkway. Another is for a reconstruction of a fire and rescue building.
Chairman, I'd like to repeat myself in the application.
As expected. We have a, there you go. All right, any questions, thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Sure,
A couple
absolutely.
of comments to offer. So with respect to the pedestrian walkway application, a couple of items that I wanted to mention. The on our board depicts the proposed pedestrian walkway. The walkway is located entirely on municipally owned property. The building on the left-hand side that you're seeing is the Pemberton Township Library. The proposed 10-foot wide paved pedestrian walkway exit, I believe that's referred to, Mr. Dean, is that Broadway? The Broadway is the road that the library fronts on. You can see the pedestrian walkway leaves Broadway in a perpendicular manner, it traverses a municipal right-of-way. The pedestrian walkway then traverses municipal property, crosses a small wetland area, then loops back, and re-enters another municipal road right-of-way, and back out through the municipal road. The purpose of the township is proposing this application is primarily pedestrian safety on Broadway itself, where you can see from the aerial photograph, the roadway has several curves, sharp curves, and the township is proposing a pedestrian walkway to eliminate conflicts on Broadway with vehicles and pedestrians walking the road. I did want to note that right adjacent to, across from the library building, partially behind one of the labels is an existing single-family dwelling. On Monday, the commission staff received an appeal from that homeowner of the recommended approval. The appeal noted concerns with the environmental impacts and the security of the homeowner with pedestrians walking close to their property. We immediately sent back a letter to the person that appealed, asking them to address some of the specific requirements that your rules dictate that an applicant provide. For example, certified notice to the county planning board and to the applicant. That did not occur. That letter went back to the homeowner. They have not responded to that letter. Notwithstanding those technical deficiencies, we did provide a copy of the appeal to Mr. Belzy to take a look at. Mr. Belzy has indicated that based on his review, the individuals do not qualify or not an interested party. Matter an issue we have discussed before, because the issues they are raising are not what is known as a peculiarized property interest. It's more of a general issue, so they would not be entitled to a hearing under your rules. We have not had the opportunity to write back yet to the people that requested the appeal to indicate that due to time constraints. The letter that we sent to the individuals that appealed the application, asking them to address the specific requirements of the appeal, did indicate that based on our preliminary review, we did not believe they were going to qualify as an interested party that were entitled to appeal the commission's action. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm not sure I quite understand the status. This is before the commission, irrespective of whatever appeal process is going. Who's making that decision? Staff? For the record, I disagree with that decision. I mean, if this isn't a particularized property right, I don't know what is. But that aside, the other questions I had were, is the path? I think the walkway is a great idea, and I think it sounds like it's needed, and that makes a lot of sense. Is the pathway an impermeable surface, or is it permeable?
It is impermeable pavement.
Have we given any consideration, I don't know what under the rules we can do this, to proposing or ask the applicant to consider an permeable surface? Either, I mean, as I understand it, either a permeable cement surface or a permeable hard surface, I'll call it, this is what we don't actually, or a permeable, sort of non-hard.
Certainly, Commissioner. Well, our regulations do not address that particular matter. An applicant can propose the type of surface, and then we review that and make a determination that it's consistent with our stormwater management standards for stormwater runoff. There's certainly, we can suggest to applicants that they consider alternative approaches. And for this matter, we will make that suggestion to the applicant. But we have reviewed what was proposed by the applicant and our stormwater management standards for runoff. They are constructing, I believe it's 3 stormwater infiltration facilities to contain the stormwater.
Chuck, I know you said the couple that feel doesn't understand. However, do you have to place a fly there? Is it just not in my backyard, or is there something that we can maybe address that they're particularly concerned about?
Yes, Commissioner. The issue that's being raised, if you look at the aerial photograph, is that the property owner right now fronts on what commonly is referred to as a paper municipal right-of-way, which means that it's a municipally owned property, but there is not a road and it's not improved. The property owner has a driveway that leads back to their house from Broadway. So what will happen, this proposal will open up that right-of-way, and in fact, pedestrians will be walking in that right-of-way along this trail. And I suspect if I was that property owner, I would believe too that I would prefer it to be wooded and not developed. But again, our regulations would not prohibit a municipality from developing this as a road or as a pedestrian way, as long as it met our standards.
How close is it to their property line?
Well, the municipal right-of-way is 50 feet wide. The pedestrian way is 10 feet wide. I believe the pedestrian way is centered in the right-of-way, so I can quickly do my math. It's going to be about 20 feet from their property line.
Sir, we'll have a public comment period. If there's not an opportunity for that right now, we'll have that in a little bit.
Did I answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes.
Any other questions for Chuck on either of the Pemberton applications before us? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any
Aye.
abstentions? One opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay. Got the count, Jess? All right. Can somebody get Rick? Yes. One resolution. All right, so that moves us to public comment on matters where the record is not closed. So We do have a list of public applications where the record is not closed. And I believe that is another one for Pemberton Township, or you were right about Pemberton Township really picking up activity. Placement of a riprap retaining wall.
This is an
This is an application. This is for public comment where the record is not closed. Is there anybody from the public, anything that's out there that has not been closed? As I mentioned, there'll be a second general public comment period at the end of the meeting. All right, we'll close that portion of public comment. We do have some master plans and ordinances that do not require any commission action. Susan, is there anything on the Lacey or Monroe to comment on? Well, I'll turn it right back over to you because I believe you have a presentation.
So we thought we would take an opportunity to do a refresher, sort of the conformance process that we follow and what we use here at the commission and our work with municipalities. You see some of the results of that process, on your monthly agendas, but there's a lot that's going on that never actually comes to the commission itself. And we thought it would be a good idea for you to have some insight into the entire process. So here is our presentation. So the Pinelands Protection Act actually sets up what we like to call the conformance process. The act itself requires that all towns and counties in the Pinelands area revise their master plans and various land use ordinances to implement the comprehensive master plan. And as I'm sure most of you know, as of October 2013, the Commission have certified all of the municipal and county master plans and ordinances. All 53 towns, all 7 counties, all of that has been accomplished. It took us quite a few years to get to the point where we could say 100% conformance. South Tom's River was the very last municipality in the door, and that was October 2013. But because the conformance process is ongoing, we have a continual relationship with the towns, so it's not just a one-time thing where they amend their master plans and ordinance and zoning maps to conform to the CMP. That's the initial step, and then anytime they want to change their master plans or their ordinances or their zoning maps, they have to submit all of that here to the commission for review, and they don't take effect. Any of those documents don't take effect until the commission has approved them. So what sort of things do we receive as part of the conformance process? The CMP and the Pinelands Protection Act refer to master plans, but those master plans can include any number of things. Sometimes we receive entirely new, big, thick master plan documents. Sometimes we receive just a re-examination report that the towns have to do periodically to determine whether any conditions have changed. Land use elements, you've seen a lot of housing elements and fair share plans recently. That's part of a master plan. Some of our municipalities do fairly extensive open space and recreation plans, public facilities plans, coastal resiliency plans. That's been a new one over the past few years. We've seen a number of those from some of the Ocean County municipalities in particular. And then the towns will just do amendments to their master plans sometimes as they come up if they need to address a particular interest or zoning change. And then in terms of ordinances, we see zoning maps. This is Jackson Township's very colorful zoning map there on the left. Redevelopment plans, again, I've mentioned a number of times, they're very popular these days. We see ordinances that change permitted uses. We see ordinances that change what I'll call bulk standards, a lot width requirement or a side yard setback requirement. Design standards, which can range from lighting, parking, sidewalk requirements, all kinds of things like that. Signs, we've all seen a number of sign ordinances over the past few years. Application fees, permitting procedures, all of these are types of ordinances that the municipalities adopt and are required to send to the commission. When we receive any of these documents, we have a system where we enter them into it's called our conformance tracking system, and then that triggers this automatic posting on the commission's website. So we have a fairly comprehensive list at all times on the website of the municipal ordinances and master plans that have been submitted within the past. I think it's a 6-month sort of rolling window. So anything we've received, whether it's adopted, whether it's just proposed, It's listed here so that anyone who wants to see if we've received something or something might be under review, they can look here on the website and find that pretty readily. It's listed by municipality, the ordinance number, and a brief description and when we received it, so you can tell what's happening here. And then once we receive something, we have a process that we follow that's pretty detailed. It's in the CMP itself. This is sort of the first step. When we receive an ordinance or a master plan, according to the CMP, we have to first determine whether that document raises a substantial issue, and that's the key words here in green. Does that raise a substantial issue with respect to the conformance of the master plan and land use ordinance of a particular town with the CMP? If yes, if there is a substantial issue, then we have the full process. The amendment has to be reviewed and approved by the full commission. That's when you see them listed on your agenda and you have a resolution before you. If we determine that no substantial issue is raised, then we have a different process that we follow that's much simpler and quicker, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. So that's the initial decision that has to be made right there. Last year, just to give you an idea of the volume of activity, we received and reviewed 140 different ordinance and master plan amendments from 29 Pinelands municipalities and 1 county. We don't get a lot of county conformance activity. It's rare that we see master plan or any kind of ordinance from a county, but in this case, Atlantic County is redoing its master plan, so we did receive that. In terms of numbers, so we had 140 documents. About 25% of the adopted documents we received were determined to raise a substantial issue, which then generated the need for formal commission action. The remaining 75% were processed by the staff. I'll show you that. So this is how we classify ordinances, and it could say master plans and ordinances, but anything we receive. Over the years, we've had to come up with categories and lists of examples to help us determine whether something raises a substantial issue or not. So these are the key types of changes or amendments we see where our determination would be that there is a substantial issue raised. And it's important to remember that substantial issue doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong or something inconsistent about what the municipality has sent us. Sometimes it's just the subject matter is significant enough that we believe the full commission should take action on that. And the first one of these is whenever a change in Pinelands management area boundaries occurs. So town wants to expand a village, change the designation of property from a rural development area to a regional growth area. The commission will always, those will always be substantial issues. The commission will always see those and need to formally approve them. Sometimes municipalities want to adopt standards that are more restrictive than those in the CMP. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. And again, we think those are things the commission should review. More often, municipalities will come up with what I've termed here a creative approach or different sort of interpretation of a CMP standard. Sometimes we refer to that as municipal flexibility. You've heard me talk about that over the years. Your rules do specifically provide municipalities with the ability to consider different approaches, different types of programs and standards as long as your objectives are met. So you'll see those from time to time from the municipalities. This is an interesting one. We put this on the list. It has come up, although not very often. Something where we'll receive an ordinance or a master plan in the mail, and we pretty quickly become aware that it's a very controversial matter at the local level. And if that controversy is related to something that ties into the CMP and to your standards, we will make sure that you see that goes through the full process. And then this last one, of course, if we receive an amendment, a zoning change, or some sort of ordinance where it's clear that what the municipality is doing is not consistent with the CMP, obviously you all need to see that. So this is the process. If we get one of those, a management area change, or something that we would classify as requiring municipal flexibility, here's what we do. Receive that, we update your website so that it's posted so everyone knows that it's received and under review. We have to make the decision about whether it is a substantial issue. We have 30 days to do that. That's the time frame that the CMP specifically prescribes. So we have 30 days to make that initial decision. Once we've said yes, it's a substantial issue, we notify the municipality, obviously, so they know. And then the rules require that we schedule and hold a public hearing. We have 60 days to do that from the time we receive the adopted document. So all of these timeframes go back and tie into the date it walked in the door, whether it came via email or regular mail or certified mail or hand delivered. That starts our clock. So we have to hold a public hearing within 60 days of receiving the document. We have to prepare a report and recommendation to the commission within 100 days. We've built in a process as part of this for the P&I committee to review our report and initial recommendation, and then the formal commission action where you all have a resolution before you at a meeting just like today has to occur within 120 days when we receive that adopted document. 120 days sounds like a lot of time, but it's not. I assure you, it can go pretty quickly when you have to hit all these specific sort of milestones along the way. The commission, once you take action, you have the rules provide you with 3 different alternatives. Certification, obviously, that's just like approval, where you're saying, yes, this is consistent with the CMP and the amendment will take effect. You can also do what's called a conditional certification. We don't do that much anymore, but it is one of the alternatives available where the ordinance would be certified, but with conditions, and those conditions specifically direct the municipality to go back and revise the ordinance. They're very specific. They have to be exactly, the wording that's necessary to achieve consistency with the CMP. And then you see in blue there, that happens if the commission does a conditional certification. The municipality then has 120 days to respond and adopt and submit a revised document. Even more rare, but still possible, is for the commission to actually issue a disapproval of a particular master plan or ordinance. And again, if you do that, the town has 120 days to fix it somehow or do a new version or come up with a different way or a different approach to whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. So whatever action the commission takes, when that's done, we notify the municipality. And then a lot of things go on here behind the scenes that you don't see, but they involve updating of all of our various systems. If there's a map change, our GIS office is involved in updating all of our records and GIS layers and information that's available to the rest of the staff. We have a fairly detailed zoning system, I'll call it, where we have anybody, you can log in here and look up a particular zone in a municipality and see what's permitted and what the permitted density is. So that all needs to be updated so that people can access the new information when they're reviewing applications. So that's the full-blown process. So just as an example, to refresh your memories, this is one that the commission saw a couple of years ago. Barnegat Township adopted an ordinance to allow mixed-use development for the first time in one of its commercial zones in the regional growth area. It's pretty high-density development. It required the use of PDCs for a certain percentage of the units. These are all things that the CMP doesn't expressly authorize. It allows towns to come up with ways of achieving the goals of the PDC program. It allows for higher densities if certain objectives are met, but we thought this was something that ought to be viewed and approved by the full commission. So we received the ordinance in October of 2014. We knew it was coming, and that's why you see the quick turnaround where we already knew it was coming. We knew when they were adopting it. We knew it was going to be a substantial issue. We've been working with the town on it for a couple months ahead of time, which is usually the case. So we were very quickly able to send the town back a letter saying, yes, this is a substantial issue. It's going to require a full approval process. We scheduled and held our public hearing on November 19th. I'm fairly certain that no one attended that hearing. It is rare that we have anyone at our public hearings on these ordinances anymore. We prepared our recommendation for certification, and the P&I committee discussed that in January of 2015, and the full commission took action and certified the ordinance in February of 2015. And it resulted in this. This is the project that the township was trying to accommodate by making the ordinance change. It's called Barnegat Crossing. It's a mixed-use project with commercial stores on the ground floor and 2 floors of apartments, about 158 restricted apartments. It's under construction, and this is what it will look like when it's done. So that's just sort of to show you, and you take action. The town has an idea, for whatever reason, they've come up with something they want to accommodate. in one of their zones. They come here, we talk about it initially, they do an ordinance, you all see that and approve it, and someday we hope that it will result in that. And I should mention that this project required and redeemed 38 rights, so they bought PDCs. They didn't need the bigger cities. So that's the full-blown substantial issue process. So I told you that's about 25%, at least last year, of the ordinances that we received went through that process or are going through that process now. These are the other categories, so no substantial issue. We'll get an ordinance that doesn't rise to the level or fit into one of those substantial issue categories. These are the types of things that we'll see. Responses to CMP amendments, that's a big one. You've all just adopted amendments that took effect in December. All of our municipalities are going to have to amend their ordinances in response to those CMP amendments. So we're going to get a lot of ordinances in the door doing that. As long as all they're doing is just mirroring what you all adopted, we don't think that raises a substantial issue that the commission needs to see. They're simply adopting what you've already told them to adopt. So that fits here. Rezonings within a Pinelands management area, so that doesn't happen all that often, but for example, if it was a rural development area and the town wanted to establish a new commercial zone or wanted to change the boundary of the existing commercial zone, that's not something that we feel generally would raise a substantial issue. Obviously, if there's a problem somehow with it, if it's not reflective of the existing conditions, or they're taking a wetland area and trying to zone it for intensive residential development, you might see it, but here, generally those don't raise any issues. Changes in permitted uses, densities, lot area requirements, as long as they're consistent with the CMP. Bulk standards, so again, side yard setbacks, lot frontage requirements, things like that. Application checklists, affordable housing development fees. We've been seeing a lot of those ordinances lately as the towns are doing their settlement agreements. Design standards, parking, lighting, curbs, sidewalks, all kinds of things. Those generally, although they're of interest to us because they relate to development in the Pinelands area, they don't directly relate to standards in the CMP, so they don't raise substantial issues. And then planning and zoning board functions and procedures, variance procedures, application procedures there. We do review those, but they rarely raise any significant issues. So the process for these, we get them in the mail or more and more these days email. We update the website so the world will know that we've received something. We have that green number there, so we have 30 days once we get something to determine is it a substantial issue or not. If we decide it's a no substantial issue, we'll send the municipality a letter to let them know and prepare a memo to you and list that ordinance on the next commission meeting agenda. So those are the ones you see on the agenda every month that you have the opportunity to have a little information about. And then once that has happened, again, if necessary, we'll update our zoning system and all of our maps and other records to make sure that all the staff here have access to them. And then there's one last category, and these are the no issues. And these are things like an application fee or a municipal escrow requirement. They're making a zoning change, but it's outside the Pinelands area. We see a lot of those. They're codifying their ordinances into a nice new chapter. I put dog licenses on the list here. You'd be surprised at the ordinances sometimes I think that we receive. We have some municipalities who send us every ordinance under the sun that they've adopted. So that's always that's the fun one that we always say, well, you know, you don't really have to send us this, but they do. So so these are things that really have nothing to do with any of your standards or any land in the Pinelands area. So here's what we do if we get one of those. We receive it, we update the website, we send the town back a letter within that 30-day period saying this doesn't raise any issues whatsoever, doesn't require any review. And that's the end of that. So that's a pretty quick thing here. I think that's it. So that's our process. I think over the years, we have, out of necessity, developed a pretty good working relationship with most of our municipalities, so they know to reach out to us ahead of time with what they're thinking about doing, if they know it's a zoning change in the Pinelands area or some other standard that we're likely to be interested in. Most of them will send us an email or call ahead of time to say we're thinking about doing the following. What do you think? And I send you a draft of the master plan or ordinance that we're working on. And we always say yes, of course. Do you need help writing some ordinance language? Sometimes we'll offer to do that, depending on the municipality and whether they have their own consultants or not. Some of them don't. Some towns need more help than others because they don't have professional staff, doing these routine ordinance matters for them. So it's rare these days where an ordinance comes to the door that we're surprised by, that we didn't know about, but it does still happen. And when that happens, it causes a lot of scurrying around because the clock starts ticking immediately, and you need to decide what to do, and you have to plan out the schedule in advance, with an eye in mind of public hearing dates, committee dates, commission meeting dates, to make sure you hit the 120-day period. That's it.
Any questions for Sue? Good. One note, the Barnegat proposal took 190 days. 109 days.
109.
Out of the 120.
109, and even that.
And that was with a 2-day response.
Right, and even that was longer than normal and than I would have liked, but it happens because the P&I committee meeting, P&I committee didn't meet in December that year and didn't meet in early January that year, so we had to keep pushing it back until the committee met at the end of January.
And the municipality can waive that period if they want.
Municipalities can request an extension of the commission's review period at any point along the way. And often, not often, but when it happens, when we receive an ordinance that we didn't know about and it comes to the door and we say, uh-oh, that, there's going to be a problem here, this isn't quite right, we'll try to get in touch with whoever it is in the municipality that's working on it right away, I'll say, to alert them that we think there's an issue. Sometimes we'll suggest you might want to think about requesting an extension so that we don't get into this full-blown process. If you'd like to have an opportunity to talk about it and perhaps come up with some amendments that could be done before we get to a public hearing and have to recommend that the commission not approve it. So that does frequently happen. So by the time you see things, sometimes we've already gone through that process and worked everything out, and they've made changes that we suggested so that we can recommend it.
One other question came up in the context of the dog licenses that obviously we don't need to look at. How does the municipality know what to send and what not to send?
Well,
the dog licenses may be obvious, but there may be other ones that are closer.
So I think that's why for some municipalities it's just easier for them to send us everything. We always tell them if it's amending your zoning chapter of your code or your site plan approval procedure. Sometimes they have specific code chapters where we just tell them, send us anything that amends the following chapters. But again, it's different. Some municipalities don't send us, or they know we're not going to send them an ordinance that rezones property outside the Pinelands area. They just don't. So some towns are making those decisions, and others are just send them everything. It's easier for them, and that's okay too.
Susan, one of the substantial issue categories that you had listed was when a municipality might do something in a zoning amendment that would be more restrictive than the CMP. Does that happen?
It does. I think I said at the time it's not common because your standards are already pretty restrictive. But so, for example, we had a municipality years ago in their Pinelands Forest area, and your regulations dictate a maximum permitted number of units that can be zoned for in that forest area. There's a density, there's a formula you have to follow. And this municipality was interested in permitting fewer units than that in its forest area, based on something other than the formula in your rules. So that's a more restrictive forest area zoning plan that we thought the commission itself wanted to review. It doesn't happen often.
Thank
you. So we have no criteria to apply to that, right? If it's more stringent than our standards, we've got to accept it.
Yeah, what I didn't include as part of this presentation is the very extensive pages of list of standards that we have to review all ordinances and master plans against. So we have a number of criteria. The situation you're describing, or the example I used, was the Pinelands Forest area, where the CMP only sets a maximum in terms of the number of permitted units. So there you're correct. There's nothing that says in the plan, in your rules, that says municipalities can't be more restrictive. There's nothing in particular to review that against. Had it been a regional growth area, however, the CMP does have standards for that. So if the town came in and said, we don't want to allow 3 units per acre, even though the CMP says we have to, we only want to allow 2 units per acre. In a regional growth area, there are standards we use that say that's not okay.
I think that's a good point. That raises
So
issues of
right.
PVCs and
Exactly.
yeah.
So there are, it's different. There are standards that would apply in some management areas and not others.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to general public comment. Assuming we don't have a sign-in list, but is there anybody from public who, Jason, you're like shaking in your seat back there. You're ready to jump up there, aren't you? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, Jason Howell, I'm through Pinelands, and I just wanted to give you a brief update on our report and vehicle resolution. Now, that report has been about and we're going to start building these headlights and bottles. And when you are ready to look at it, you'll be ready to go. So we're going to start building. And we would like to last year's ask for an update across the park because we have different promises. I know there's a lot of change right now. I think we're going to the situation going on now, of course, has much changed. There have been solutions actually within the ground. We have on paper. Although super and following this throughout the entire time, working where we can to find a really truly at the moment. So that's all I got for you now. And yeah, I was just loving it.
Thank you, Jason. I was wrong. There is a list. Jason, you were second, so I apologize to Sharon, who was first. Sharon, if you wanted to speak, now's your time. Thank you. I only had 2 names on the list, but got a few other folks here. If you'd like to say something, just let me know. Can you speak into the mic so we can get you on the, and we can hear you? Thank you. Any others for public comment, general public comment? Once, twice, okay, we'll close public comment. Are there any comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, could I interject for just a moment?
Yeah. You might have been pressed up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
There you go.
But for continuity, I thought it might be.
Try now.
I just wanted to know for the commission that I had an opportunity to speak with the adjacent property owners of the project. I explained the proposed development, indicated what the commission's regulations addressed and did not address, and suggested on most of the issues they may want to discuss it further with the township officials. And I want to correct myself on one issue. I believe that the right-of-way was 50 feet wide. The right-of-way had been reduced by the township down to 33 feet, so that in fact the paved pedestrian way is about, based on scale, looks to be about 5 feet from the property line, as opposed to, I think I said approximately 20 feet from the property line. But it is still within the municipal right-of-way. But I wanted to correct myself on that. If it helps at all, Commissioner, yes, I apologize for the dimension, but please bear in mind that if the municipality would have proposed to pave the entire roadway and curve it right up to the limits of the right-of-way, that would not change your staff's recommendation because it's the municipality's property.
So do they have any recourse now? Are you saying, since we've already voted, is this, do they have recourse with the municipality, the homeowners?
I'm not sure that I'll try to answer your question, Commissioner. I'm not sure the legal answer to that. The question that's being raised is, if a municipality proposes improvements within its right-of-way, can an adjacent property owner contest that? I'm not an attorney. My non-legal opinion is that it's municipal property. The township's entitled to develop within their right-of-way. There may be other extenuating circumstances that come into play on other matters or other proposals, but I think their discussions are with the municipality about the municipality proposing to install improvements within the municipal right-of-way.
been down today, they could have done it regardless, right? They could have, and they probably would have, they would have been successful, probably.
I'll offer my opinion if you'd like, Commissioner. So I think what would have happened is the staff was recommending an approval of the public development application based on your rules. If the commission was so inclined not to agree with that, the application would have automatically gone to the Office of Administrative Law. I believe the Office of Administrative Law would have reviewed the matter for consistency with your rules and made a determination that the municipality was proposing improvements within its right-of-way, and that the commission does not have rules that prohibit that. But that's my opinion.
So in other words, it was based on the rules, even if we don't agree with, because I don't really agree with what the municipality is doing, but we're not voting on that, then in other words.
Well, let me try to clarify. There's not a rule in your regulations that indicates that the commission is obligated to approve a development application that's filed on property that a person owns. But the opposite, I'm trying not to make this too confusing, but the opposite of that is that if I own property and I propose development on that property that meets the commission's rules, is there a basis to deny it? Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
I wasn't going to comment on this application given the discussion we just had. I don't disagree with what you said on the merits, Chuck, but the commission's decision or the staff's decision to deny the applicant interested party status to go to OIL does impact them. And as I said before, I think they are interested parties. That said, I have another question. Nancy, we've talked about going to DP about important state forest. I know you were thinking about meeting the commissioner. I just wonder what the status of that is.
Assistant commissioners are not responding. It's just, I have
I
to make the
understand.
calls.
I understand.
It's just they're still hunkered down in their offices, fearful of doing anything. But I have raised it on a couple of other occasions that we through the commission's office, and at least at that basis.
I appreciate that. I understand that. I mean, my understanding is things are sort of stalled there until the commissioner is confirmed, but I just wanted to raise it again to see where we are in the process. Thank you.
Any other comments from your comment, Bob?
Yeah, I know we've gone round and around and around about this, Chuck, but why are they deemed not in review? Why are they not interested?
I think that let's, Bruce, can you answer that, please? Bruce, Bob had asked, what went into the determination of why they were not deemed an interested party?
Under the New Jersey Administrative Procedure Act, in order for somebody other than the applicant to be entitled to a hearing, either the statute itself in question, in this case, the Pinelands Protection Act, or some constitutional right must entitle somebody to a hearing. As the courts in New Jersey have interpreted that term, just mere adjacency, some right next door does not necessarily and normally entitle somebody to have what's called a particularized property interest. There was a case in 2006 out of the Meadowlands Commission called D'Amico Car Wash, and the court's been pretty consistent that it's a very narrow circumstance where somebody other than an actual property owner whose property lines being crossed would have that right to a hearing. Thank you.
I think you can comment on that.
I have to. Bruce, are we applying the commission's regulations, or are we applying the Administrative Procedures Act? As I recall, the commission did not adopt a change in the definition of interested party, and my sense is that you're applying what we didn't adopt. are you aware that the only decision I've ever seen with respect to interested party in the Pinelands Commission was an OAL decision that upheld the interested party status for the challenger. I'll have to find it, but I found it after we were having this discussion about the rule. So I suggest that I think our standards right now under our regulations are different. I'll get you the. I'm happy to discuss it. Well. That's correct. So my suggestion is that if it's not, you took that out, the standards are different in the Pinelands Commission. I'll get you the case. Thanks.
Any other comments from commissioners? Yes, sir.
Chairman, I'd just like to echo the comments that Commissioner Prickett made earlier in complimenting the staff on the excellent work doing the short course that occurred in March, the one that's coming up in July. Wonderful history to have in delivering the short course. It's gratifying to see that the public is responding to that. The attendance numbers keep growing. That I'm glad that we surveyed the public to get their feedback about it, and that the feedback was so strong. It just shows we're on a good path there. And I'd just like to congratulate you all for what you've done with that. And once again, congratulate Commissioner Prickett for his ongoing, irreplaceable role as Charles Beckwith. Short course. Thank you, Chair.
Any other comments from commissioners? All right. That does it for my agenda. All in favor? Aye. You don't get the chance to be opposed.